I would guess that in this crowd, everyone knows someone who has experienced a personal tragedy that Bernie's policies would have averted. We need a Democratic Party to once again become the party of the working people. A party not dependent on billionaires who do not share our struggles, is hollowed and weak. It has given us 40 years of moving right to accommodate corporate donors while losing power at the state and federal level. And it has left the establishment afraid and incapable of doing anything but beg for another sip from the poison chalice of corporate donations. I hope that when you leave here today, knowing that there are so many people here fighting for you, you feel braver about speaking out for immigrants, for working mothers, for people struggling to get by on minimum wage, for the homeless, for victims of imperialism at home and abroad, including Indigenous people right here in Utah, and for everyone else facing struggles just like you. So before you go, remember, Bernie needs your vote tomorrow, but he also needs everyone here to show up at their caucus night on March 24th to become delegates to the state convention and make sure that your voices are heard within the party as well. Thank you so much for being here.
Please welcome to the stage member of the Student Congress at March for Our Lives, Daoud Moomin.
Good morning, Salt Lake City. Oh, come on. I said good morning, Salt Lake City. Thank you all so much for coming out today to rally, to mobilize, and to make your voices heard, because it is a beautiful day to change the world. My name is Daoud Moomin. I'm an 18-year-old organizer and activist here in Salt Lake City, Utah, here to share with you all my message of hope, of progress, and why I'm casting my ballot for an amazing candidate. In 1996, my mother and father emigrated to the United States of America from the war-torn country of Somalia to give me and my football team of 9 siblings a life of access, of prosperity, and longevity. This goal of theirs was constantly stifled with systemic and structural issues that no one cared to fix or even cared to listen to. We have normalized our politicians, our representatives not listening to us, and that must change. The candidate here today has exemplified that we must demand that our politics reflect the needs of the people who are affected most by the decisions made, and that's us, all of us. Bernie made clear that this election isn't about one person's race to the White House, but a race to carry the voice, the needs, and the demands of the people to the White House. And that person who must and is winning this race, Utah, is Bernie Sanders. He is winning because of policies like racial justice, universal Medicare, gun violence prevention, and tuition and debt-free colleges that we all need. Bernie once told us that together, my friends, we have begun a revolution to transform America. And that revolution, our revolution, continues. When I began my work as an organizer when I was 13 years old, my model, my mentor, and my older brother Yusuf, somewhere in this crowd, told me it's not enough that we just care, but important that we do, to take action and to fight for the lives that my mom and dad fought every day for. And 5 years later, this year, he told me that Bernie's a special candidate because he's ready to fight like hell alongside mom and dad. This campaign has shown me that injustice can't be solved with moderate and negligible actions, but revolutionary and progressive ones that we all need. One led by a motto of not me, us, together, that we can change this country. When I was asked if I was willing to publicly endorse a senator, I was surprised because I wasn't famous or a celebrity or a household name. but it's because he cared and recognized about my gun violence prevention activism with March for Our Lives and wanted to amplify it. With his track record, I know that Senator Sanders will fight like hell alongside us as president for gun violence prevention, for my parents, and for structural change. So Utah, please help me give a roaring welcome to the candidates of hope, of progress, of not me, us, the next president of the United States, Senator Bernie Sanders.
Utah, thank you. And before I go any further, let me introduce to you the next First Lady of the United States, Jane Sanders. It is wonderful to be here in one of the most beautiful states in the country. And I hear you got good skiing, almost as good as Vermont. We are here today for some serious business. And that serious business has to do with two fundamental issues. Number one, we must defeat Donald Trump, who is the most dangerous president in the modern history of this country. Now, I have heard that Utah is a conservative state. Somebody told me that. But let me just say this. Whether you are conservative or whether you're progressive, whether you're Republican, independent, or Democrat, you understand that the United States cannot continue having as president somebody who is a pathological liar. And I think there are a lot of conservatives who understand that. You cannot continue having somebody who is running a corrupt administration. We cannot continue to have somebody who apparently has never read the Constitution of the United States, who is undermining American democracy and thinks that he is above the law. Well, in November, we are going to remind Donald Trump what democracy is about, because we're going to throw him out of office. But Trump is not just a liar, he is a fraud. You know, he ran in 2016 and he said, we are going to provide health care to everybody. Remember that? Well, he didn't provide health care to everybody. Instead, he tried to throw 32 million Americans off the health care they have. Trump said that his tax proposals would not benefit the rich. He lied. Over a 10-year period, 83% of the benefits go to the top 1%. Donald Trump said, trust me, I will not cut Medicare or Medicaid or Social Security. He lied. If you look at his budgets, massive cuts to Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. Now, Trump tells us every day that we're supposed to hate the undocumented in this country. But as a private businessman, he loved the undocumented, hired hundreds of them at his resorts so he could exploit them with low wages. Trump tells us we should be opposed to the outsourcing of good-paying jobs to low-wage countries. But as a private businessman, he established factories in China, in Mexico, in India, in Bangladesh, and in Turkey. Now, we are going to defeat Trump because while Trump is trying to divide our people up based on the color of their skin or their religion or where they were born or their sexual orientation, we are going to bring our people together around an agenda that works for all, not just the 1%. And let me tell you something. The establishment is getting very, very nervous. I read something the other day, a lobbyist for the military-industrial complex getting nervous. He is worried that maybe we'll stop endless wars. And the drug companies are getting nervous. They're worried that we're not going to allow them to charge us 10 times more for the same exact medicine they sell abroad. And you know, I just read something this morning, actually, that there is a super PAC. You all know what a super PAC is. A super PAC is a manifestation of the corruption of our political system. And I'm proud to tell you, we don't have a super PAC. We don't want a super PAC. We don't need a super PAC because our campaign contributions come from working families, not Wall Street and the drug companies. But today, all over the country, people are seeing ugly TV and digital ads put forward by a group called the Big Tent. Now, this is a super PAC, and they are spending, as I understand it, some $4 million in a 2-day period to try to beat us. Now, I can't tell you who is funding the Big Tent, because in a corrupt political system, CEOs of large corporations and billionaires can spend as much as they want without being disclosed. But I will bet you that money is coming from the drug companies, from the insurance companies, from the fossil fuel industry, and from Wall Street. So I say to all those Americans across the country who are seeing those ugly ads, ask yourself, who is paying for them and why do they want to defeat us so much? And I'll give you the reason. The reason is they know that our administration will stand up to the corporate elites. We're going to stand up to Wall Street. We're going to stand up to the corruption of the drug companies. We're going to stand up to the insurance companies. We're going to stand up to the fossil fuel industry. We're going to stand up to the military-industrial complex. We're going to stand up to the prison-industrial complex. See, and when the establishment sees so many people coming out to rallies in California, in Virginia, here in Salt Lake City, they get very nervous. They know that people are coming together to demand that we have a government and an economy that works for all, not just the few. That working people are sick and tired of working for starvation wages all across this country. People can't make it on $7.25 an hour federal minimum wage. And that is why we're going to raise the federal minimum wage to $15 an hour. It is why we believe in equal pay for equal work. It is why we're going to make it easier for workers to join unions. It is why we're going to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure and create millions of good-paying union jobs. And it is why we're going to tell the wealthiest people in this country and the largest corporations that in the midst of massive income and wealth inequality, they will start paying their fair share of taxes. And when we talk about issues impacting working families and the middle class, we're going to change priorities in America and put education up at the top of the list. We believe in high quality, universal, affordable child care. We believe that every kid in this country, regardless of the zip code in which they live, deserves a quality education. And that is why we're going to triple funding for low-income Title I schools. And because we believe in education, we believe in teachers. This country desperately needs good teachers. And I hope all of the young people here will give thought to going into teaching. And that is why we will fight to raise the minimum salary for teachers in this country to $60,000 a year. And because we believe in public education, we believe that we've got to expand the concept of public education beyond K through 12. We must make public colleges and universities tuition-free. At a time when 2 years ago, Trump and his friends gave $1 trillion in tax breaks to the 1% and large corporations so that profitable corporations like Amazon last year didn't pay a nickel in federal taxes. Well, if Trump can give tax breaks to them, we can cancel all student debt in America. And let me tell you about an issue that I have felt strongly about my entire adult life. And that is that health care is a human right, not a privilege. And together we will end the international embarrassment of the United States being the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all. Under our cruel and dysfunctional system, we are now spending twice as much, I want you all to hear it, twice as much as the people of any other country for health care. And yet, despite spending $11,000 on health care for every man, woman, and child, we end up with a system in which 87 million Americans are uninsured or underinsured. We end up with a system, and this is really unbelievable, where every year at least, and I suspect the number is much greater, at least 30,000 people die because they don't go to a doctor when they should, because they don't have health insurance. We are living with a system in which last year 500,000 people went bankrupt because of medically related bills. I want you to think about that for a moment. Think about the cruelty of a system that says, oh, you are struggling with cancer, you're fighting for your life. Oh, sorry, because of the outrageous medical bills you assume, you're going to go bankrupt. That really is cruel, that is outrageous, and together we end that. Now, last year, despite so many of our people being uninsured and underinsured and going bankrupt, the healthcare industry, the drug companies and the insurance companies made $100 billion in profit. So today we tell the healthcare industry that the function of a rational and humane healthcare system is to guarantee healthcare for all, not make huge profits for the CEOs of large healthcare industries. And whether they like it or not, we are going to lead this country into a Medicare for all single-payer program. And what a Medicare for all single-payer program means is not radically different than what goes on all over the world. You know, people are telling me that Medicare for all is radical. What is radical is that the average American family spends $12,000 a year for health care. That's radical. What's radical is we pay the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. What is not radical is to say that we eliminate all premiums, all co-payments, the insane concept of deductibles. We end all out-of-pocket expenses. And because we lower the cost of prescription drugs in this country, nobody has to pay more than $200 a year for their prescription drugs. What is not radical is to understand that Medicare for all must cover dental care, hearing aids, eyeglasses, and very importantly, home health care. So we are going to do what should have been done a long time ago in this country, from way back to the time of Teddy Roosevelt, the early 1900s. People have been talking about universal health care. Well, I believe the time for talk is over. The time for action is now. Together, we will take on the healthcare industry and pass a Medicare for all single-payer program. And when we talk about an agenda for the American people, our campaign does not sweep the important issues under the table. We've got to be honest with the American people, even if they don't agree with us. Now, Donald Trump, that great and brilliant scientist, after years of intensive study, after reading journal after journal, after turning off Fox TV and studying the issue, he has concluded that climate change is a hoax? Well, we think Donald Trump is a hoax. Now, are you ready for a radical proposition? All right, we got EMS services here if anybody collapses. All right, you ready for it? Our administration will believe in science. Now, I know that's a radical idea, that our policies will be based on data and facts and the best information available in the world. But sometimes, you got to stand up and be brave, and that's what we're going to do. So here is the truth. When you listen to the scientists, what they tell you is that not only is climate change real and caused by human activity and already causing devastating problems in our country and around the world, what they tell us is they have, in fact, underestimated the severity in which climate change is ravaging the planet. They have underestimated the speed in which the polar ice caps are melting and the oceans are rising. They've underestimated the degree to which the country is seeing more and more drought, more and more extreme weather disturbances. They have, according to the United Nations, now believe that if we don't get our act together by the end of this century, there will be hundreds of millions of climate refugees. People who can no longer stay in their communities because there's no water to drink or land to grow their crops. What we have now is not only an existential threat to our country and the planet, but a fundamental moral issue. And that is, we have the moral responsibility to make certain that we leave this planet to our kids and future generations in a way that is healthy and is habitable. And that is why we will take on the greed of the fossil fuel industry and tell them that their short-term profits are not more important than the future of this planet. And that is why we will implement the most comprehensive climate change proposal ever brought forward based on the principles of the Green New Deal. And that means we can create up to 20 million good-paying union jobs as we transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy. And that is why we understand that climate change is not just an American issue. By definition, it is a global issue, and America needs to lead. And that is why, as president, I will be reaching out to the people in China, in Russia, in India, in Pakistan, in Brazil, countries all over the world, and make the case that instead of spending $1.8 trillion every year on weapons of destruction designed to kill each other, maybe, just maybe, we should come together and fight our common enemy, which is climate change. And when we talk about issues impacting the American people, we must address the crisis of a broken and racist criminal justice system. We are the wealthiest country on earth. We should not have more people disproportionately African American, Latino, and Native American behind bars than any other country on earth. That is a national disgrace, and we're going to end that. And we're going to end it in several ways. We're going to end it first by investing in our young people in jobs and education, rather than jails and incarceration. It costs society less money to send kids to college than to lock them up. Let's send them to college. Second of all, right now in America, unbelievably, and a lot of people don't know this, today we have 400,000 people in jail who have not been convicted of anything. Did you all know that? They were arrested, they were charged, maybe they're guilty, maybe they're not. They are in jail because they cannot afford the $500 or $1,000 they need for bail. And that is why we're going to end cash bail in America. And we do not believe that private corporations should make huge profits by locking up fellow Americans. And that is why we're going to end private prisons and detention centers. And we believe that the war on drugs has been terribly destructive for our country. Now, it turns out that there are some things a president can do by executive order, and one of those things is to legalize marijuana in every state of the country. And that is exactly what I will be doing. And what we're also going to be doing is moving toward expunging the records of those arrested for marijuana. And when we talk about systems in America that are broken, it's not just our broken criminal justice system, it is our broken immigration system. I am the son, the proud son of an immigrant. My father came to this country at the age of 17 from Poland. He came without a nickel in his pocket, couldn't speak a word of English, and had no money in his pocket. As President of the United States, we are going to end the demonization of the immigrant community in this country. On day one, we're going to restore the legal status of the 1.8 million young people eligible for the DACA program. We're going to end a cruel border policy which allows federal agents to snatch babies from the arms of their mothers. That is not what America is about. And what we will fight for, and I think can accomplish in a bipartisan way, is to pass, finally, comprehensive immigration reform and a path towards citizenship for the undocumented. That is what the American people want, and that is what we must do. And when we talk about issues that have got to be addressed, all of us, whether we're conservative, progressive, moderate, whatever we may be, are horrified by the level of gun violence in America. We are sick to our stomachs when we turn on the TV and hear about another mass slaughter. So this is what I tell to you. and that is our administration will bring forth the most sweeping gun safety legislation in the history of this country. Our administration will do what the American people want, not what the NRA wants. Trump and the Republican leadership are scared to death of the NRA. I am not. We're going to take them on. We're going to pass universal background checks. We're going to end the gun show loophole. And we're going to end the sale and distribution of assault weapons in this country. Now, as a U.S. Senator, I hear a lot of speeches on the floor of the Senate from conservative Republicans. You're booing, but I got to listen to those speeches. And as some of you know, what their mantra is they believe in small government and they believe in getting the government off the backs of the American people. That's their mantra. Well, I say to those hypocrites, if you believe in getting the government off the backs of the American people, understand that it is women who have a right to control their own bodies, not the government. Can you believe the hypocrisy of somebody saying, we believe in small government. You do what you want with your life. Oh, by the way, every woman in America has got to do what the government says. What we will do, and my promise to you, is I will never nominate anybody to the Supreme Court or the federal bench who is not 100% pro Roe v. Wade. We will fight to codify, put into law, Roe v. Wade. Trump and his friends and governors all over this country want to cut funding for Planned Parenthood. Well, we got some bad news for them because we're going to expand funding for Planned Parenthood. So, my friends, here we are. Tomorrow. Tomorrow's Tuesday, right? All right. Just wanted to check on. And we got a big election coming up in Utah and all across this country. And I'm here this afternoon in this beautiful, beautiful state to ask for your support tomorrow. I'm asking you not only to come out and vote, but to bring your friends, your neighbors, your parents, your kids, your co-workers, the whole shebang. Bring them all out. Just let us have the highest voter turnout in the history of the Utah primary. But what this campaign is about, it's not just winning in Utah or in California or in Massachusetts or wherever else we're fighting tomorrow. It's more than that. And it's more than winning the Democratic nomination. And it's even more than defeating Donald Trump. What this campaign is about is us, not me. It's about an understanding that our view of human life is very different than Trump and his friends. See, they believe that what human life is about is to make as much money as you possibly can, and in the process you can lie and cheat and step on people and do all kinds of terrible things. Because the only thing that matters is to make billions and billions of dollars. I have been in Washington and talked to executives who make hundreds of millions a year, and they come to Congress and they say, you got to cut Social Security and Medicare and education. So this campaign is about creating a government that works for all and ending this type of corporate greed. I mean, how much is enough? It is wrong that the 3 wealthiest people in America now own more wealth than the bottom half of America. It is wrong that we give tax breaks to billionaires when 500,000 people sleep out on the streets. It is wrong that half of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. So what this campaign is about, it's not only beating Trump, it's about changing our value systems and understanding that every family in America has its share of problems. You think you're the only family with problems? You're wrong. Everybody got a problem here. All right? And the way we address those problems is when we stand together, when we don't turn our backs on each other. The way we address those problems is understanding that my family has got to care about your family. That your family has got to care about my family. That as human beings and Americans, we are in this together. But the second part of what us, not me, means is a very profound political statement that you won't see discussed in corporate media. And that is the understanding of power structure in America. And the understanding that no president, not Bernie Sanders or anybody else, can do it alone. And I want you all for a moment to think about our history as a nation and how real change has taken place. It has never taken place from the top on down, always from the bottom on up. Think about the history of the labor movement, where workers organized together and told their employers that they were human beings, not beasts of burden, that they wanted respect and dignity, and that they were going to form unions and engage in collective bargaining. Think about the history of the civil rights movement. It was not just the great leadership of people like Dr. King. It was millions of people led by the African American community with their white allies who said, we will end racism in America. Think about the history of the women's movement in this country. Think about 100 years ago. Women in America did not have the right to vote, could not do the jobs they wanted to do, could not get the education they wanted. Because the establishment said, hey, your job as a woman is to stay home and have babies. But women throughout this country with their male allies said, excuse us. We will define our lives for ourselves. You will not define it for us. And women stood up by the millions, fought back, and made it clear that they would not be second-class citizens in America. And think about the history of the gay rights movement in America. Think about the incredible courage it took for people under tremendous pressure and harassment to stand up and say, you may not like it, but we will love the people we want regardless of their gender. And think about young people all over the world today, the Sunrise Movement, and others all over the world who are coming together to tell the older generation that you will not destroy this planet. We have a right to live in a healthy, habitable planet. That is how change takes place. And that is why our campaign is not just the campaign for president, it is a multi-generational, multi-racial movement. It is a movement of blacks and whites and Latinos, Native Americans, Asian Americans. It is a movement of gay and straight coming together. It is a movement that says, yes, we're going to take on the greed of Wall Street. Yes, we're going to take on the greed of the pharmaceutical industry. Yes, we're going to take on the greed of the insurance companies. Yes, we're going to take on the greed of the fossil fuel industry. Yes, we're going to take on the greed of the military-industrial complex. Yes, we're going to take on the greed of the prison-industrial complex. And yes, we're going to take on the entire 1%. And we are going to create a government and an economy and an energy system that work for all, not just wealthy campaign contributors. So let us go forward tomorrow. Let's vote. Let's win here in Utah. Let us win the Democratic nomination. Let us defeat Trump. And let us transform this country. Thank you all very much.